Hi and welcome to the channel. This is the basement. This is where I work on guitars, do repairs, and a bunch of other stuff for customers. This was a guitar that I previously did a review on, and we found some issues with it. One, the neck had a slight crown to it. Pretty much most people would say it was pretty straight, but there was a slight crown. Fret leveling, this one was really bad. Probably one of the worst that I've ever pulled out of a box. It would be easier to count the frets that were good than the frets that were right. The next issue was the guitar did come out of the box intonated quite well. Once you tuned the low E, when you went to the 12th, it was just ever so slightly falling off. But the problem that we had was on F, when you did your first fret, the F was very sharp, and that tells me that this locking nut needed to go down. Some other things that we're going to need to address: the tremolo bar. There's a screw underneath here, and that screw got loose twice on me, just kind of playing around with the guitar. So we're gonna probably put some blue Loctite on that so that stays secure. We're also, during the course of this video, going to open up the electronics cavities and see what they're using for electronics, whether it's a full-size pot, mini pot. We will level and recrown the frets and polish them, fix the nut, put a little relief in the neck, get the action and intonation set perfectly, and then we're going to play the guitar, see if those items make the guitar play. If it continues to fall off on tune, we may end up having to look at the knife edge that's on the tremolo and see if the knife edge is damaged or it's just not very sharp and it's not allowing the tremolo to always come back to the exact same location. I do have parts here in this drawer for Floyd Rose, so if we need to, we can install heavier springs. I have those in stock. Also have some stainless steel saddles, nuts, screws, and for the adjustments of the radius of the saddles, we have some saddle shims. And in this case, we're not going to need these unless I make a mistake and take too much material off, but these are nut shims to raise the nut. We are going to either cut the wood down or take the piece of metal and put it on the belt sander. So let's get to it. Let's start stripping this guitar down and doing the repairs. Okay, went upstairs, got some coffee. You need coffee. We're going to take the tremolo bar off. Set that over there. I went ahead and got some of my tools out. Got 3 different types of tape. First thing that we're going to work on is the neck. Since we're going to loosen the strings on it, see if by taking the string pressure off we can, since this thing has a back bow to it, I'm kind of thinking, well, when we take the string pressure off the neck, it's going to get worse. So I'm kind of hoping we can adjust that out in the truss rod. If not, we're going to have to create a fixture to keep the neck straight while we do the fret level. So I need a tool for that. Just go ahead and pop these off. just going to completely remove these. So what I'm going to do now, put a little tape on the strings. We don't want to scratch anything. I'm going to take the first 3 strings, fold that under, put that right to the body. And just a little bit up here where it rides on the neck. And do the same with the other side. Alright, now what we need to do is tape off our fretboard, but before we do that, let's take a look. We are using the 25.5 scale, so let's see what it did now that we've taken the string pressure off. See if we can make an adjustment in the bar. Just loosen it ever so slightly. That is spot on right there. It's just a very little adjustment. Now that we know our neck is straight, I'm going to go ahead and tape off this whole fretboard. There are some tricks before I speed up the video and I look like Superman. The first thing I always do is grab a piece of tape. We want to tape the side of the guitar neck. You will hate your life if you have to sit there and take each individual piece of tape off one by one by one. I did that for a long time, and actually a guitar tech at Guitar Center told me about this little trick, and I've done it ever since. So I'm just going to do the slow-mo video for just one section so you can see what I'm talking about. side. The significant other likes the air conditioner very chilly, and I work outside a lot, and I stay with a cough because of the air conditioning. Leave that up and out of the way real quick. Could also be because I'm a smoker. So now what we want to do, now sometimes I'll actually put the strings in like this so they're not in the way. I'm going to take this piece of tape, I'm going to keep it right on that fret. I'm going to go ahead and cover up this top tube too. I don't want any metal shavings from doing the neck. I only have one camera. I have placed an order in to Sweetwater for a 3-camera mode system. We'll see how that works out for us. So I'm going to pick the guitar up and get you to have a better look at how that is done. I'm going to continue all the way down the fretboard. When we get to the end of the fretboard, I'll go out of squirrel mode and we'll start leveling the frets. All right, we have our fretboard completely taped off. If you can tell, I went ahead and covered the pickup. We don't want any of the metal from redoing the frets getting in here. Probably put something over this one before we start sanding. Let's do a close-up on it. We'll just put a little bit out of the pickup just to be safe, just to cover it up a little bit. I don't think we're going to get much over there, but better to be safe than sorry. Tape is cheap. Okay, our next step is to get a black Sharpie. We're going to Sharpie all our frets, and we're going to start the leveling process. Be right back. Okay, welcome back. I did get my radius gauges out. These are made by StewMac, McDonald, if I can get it out. I've got a 10, 14, 12. And let's see what this neck is done at. And that is rocking. It's definitely not a 14. Looks pretty good. It's most likely a 12. Let's try the 10. There is a little daylight in the center on the 10. So at least here we're at a 12-inch radius. Let's see if it's a compound. It is not. So it looks like a 12-inch radius all the way across. So here's our Sharpie. So what we want to do, we just want to Sharpie the top of the fret. You don't have to go overkill on this. You just need a mark. Try to get it. There is a crown there, so it's quite easy to get it right in the center. If you're close, it's going to mark the center. Show you what that looks like. Alright, I'm going to go into squirrel mode and mark off the rest of these frets. Okay, they're all marked off. Just take a look at that. now comes the fun part. Get this tape out of the way. This is my sanding piece. It's made out of a piece of extruded aluminum. It's pretty nice. I have 1200 grit on this, and some people are going to probably say, well, that's, you know, not gritty enough. It may not be. The last guitar I did had nickel frets. This guitar supposedly has stainless steel, but I have found going up a couple grits here saves you a ton of time when it comes to polishing and finishing out the frets. I think it's better this way. If you get a little aggressive in a spot with 1200, you have to get really aggressive to make a mistake. So let's try this. This piece is used, so I do have the other piece. As I buy this, it comes in a 2-inch strip. I always mark the outside when I cut the piece, but it is actually marked on the inside, because once you take that off, then you forget to remark it. So I'm able to cut this in half and get 2 pieces. But let's see if this piece has any life left in it. For right now, we're going to go really easy. We just want to see the high spots. I'm just going to give some really light passes. This guitar was bad. That was some really light passes, and you can see there's already an open spot on some of the frets. I'm going to change the angle just in case that's not showing. And then I'll go even steeper. So that first couple passes, that kind of tells you how bad it was. We didn't even touch this fret at all. This fret, a little bit on the top, a little bit on the bottom, nothing in the center. This fret does look like it got an even cut. This fret almost got an even cut. It's a little light right there. This fret only cut on the top, center. Barely cut this fret right here. Barely cut this fret right here. Top, very little there. Center, top, and it fades all the way across to nothing. This one just barely got hit. This one just barely got hit. The 2 ends did not. Looks like there's a low spot in this fret right there. That hit here and here. This fret wasn't hit here or here, 2 little spots in the center. This fret was barely touched. This fret's got 1 little mark right there. This fret was only sanded here, here, so it looks like the whole upper register is a little low on these, and it did cut into the higher registers. So let's continue to go just a little bit more. Really still not hitting this fret whatsoever. Like I said, this sandpaper was used before, I did a guitar with nickel frets last week. I can feel it getting a little better. Still pretty rough through here. And remember, this is 1200 grit, and these are stainless steel frets. If you did that with nickel frets, it would cut much quicker. We're still not there. I'll let you guys take a look at this. You see the progress that we're making. So it looks like we've got a really low one right here. This fret was really low. And if you did watch the first video, the very first, when I set the fret rocker here, it was really bad up here. It seemed to get a little better as it got towards the bottom. It looks like the factory, someone got a little aggressive on the low E high spot up here, because we're still not cutting into it. Maybe they put a little fall off on it. I know some guys, they come, 14th, 15th, 16th fret, they start putting a little fall off on it. I'll do that just a little bit sometimes if they ask for it. Let's see what we get. Let's go one more time here. We're going to start up here. I'm just going to go back and forth until I see this upper fret start cutting. Yeah, at the factory they got quite aggressive through here. We have yet to touch the ends of these. We'll go through with the fret rocker and just see how close it actually is. This fret here is just starting to get hit, but it does show almost a silver line all the way across. This one's just missing a little here, a little here. Let's continue to work on the high side just a little bit. Crossways a couple times just to make sure we're not putting any strange spots in it. Now some people will disagree with this. That's fine. That's what the comment section's about. what's the old saying? There's 50,000 ways to skin a cat. And then by trade, I am a stair builder, and I have found many ways to do the exact same job. Sometimes one way is not the best way. That's why there's many ways of doing things. But I do like to go back and forth a little bit, do a cross this way, and a cross this way, then back and forth this way. If you concentrate in one area like this, you can actually put a small ridge in the fret. So by working this way, you're going to prevent that from happening. Exact same thing going this way, and then roll back and forth lightly. And remember guys, we're using 1200 grit. This is not gritty sandpaper at all. So it looks like we're good. Not here, not here. This fret is cut. It does have a line in it now. So it looks like just a little bit right here. This is definitely low here. And we're still low here. But like I said, we're gonna put a fret rocker on that. Depending on how far it's off, I have some feeler gauges. That could just be some fall off. I can take the flat edge up here and work it like I'm going to do some fall off and see if that comes out. Right now we're going to concentrate right here. Seems like the spot that we need to work in. We're just now getting a line on that fret down at the high E. Just getting there. So now I'm going to take my time and go back and forth and make sure that I didn't put a low spot. And I'm not really applying any downward pressure. I'm just letting the weight of the aluminum, which isn't much, it's aluminum, and I'm just moving it back and forth, letting the tool do the work. And if you don't hear that, that means you're getting really close. Alright, we are hitting all the way across on this one, just barely here and not quite there. So we're going to do the fall off trick. Doesn't take much. So this is our 12th, so I usually go, you know, here's our 14th, go to the 15th. I'm going to put one piece of tape right there. And we are just going to work that one little section. That's got it. There's one little tiny spot right there and right there. Let's try again. That has it. Now after you do that, this fret was taped. So I do like to go back just ever so slightly. Now here I'm actually kind of hard to explain. I'm doing that number. As I pass that 15th spot, I'm applying a little pressure to make it roll. And again, this is 1200 grit that was used on our previous fret level. So it's probably more like a 1500 at this point. Let me wipe that off real quick. I'll let you all take a look at our end result. This fret was cut quite a bit. This one was cut quite a bit. The rest of them look pretty typical. This one was cut quite a bit on the top. Let's let you guys take a look at the okay. Now I'm going to go back just with a fret leveler, little fret tool. Just want to make sure, since we did put some fall off on it, I did go back and kind of polish that out a little bit. Just want to double check that end. And we're going to go back and check our top, because it was horrible. Believe it or not, we have just a little bit right there. I'm going to mark that one. So it looks like just this spot. I'm going to double check it again. It's ever so slight, but we're going to still get it as close as possible, because you can make mistakes in crowning. Good now. I mean, that was minute, guys. Okay, our next step is going to be, now we want to do the exact opposite. We want to go back through, put our black marks across all our frets again, and then we're going to use a fret file, and we want to leave the very top part of that black onto the top. You don't want a pyramid looking fret. Let me grab my 2 fret tools. The first one I have is the StewMac. Now this is the one that has a rounded base. That's just for doing the ends. And this is the Z file. Like the Z file. But if you're not careful with it, it can give you some pyramid frets if you're not careful, if you're not rolling the file. Mine is the center cut. This one has more of a shoulder on it than this side. And then this guy here, which I can never get open. It's got a little thingy on it, but you never, always got to use the pick tool to get it open. Never wants to open. This is a fret guru. I like this one for one reason. The top already has your proper radius. Nice file. So what I'll do is I'll use the Z file, first pass, get it close, and then I'll come back with the fret guru and give it 1 or 2 slight passes across the top. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go back into squirrel mode, do all these frets with the black Sharpie, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, we've got all the frets done. Wanted to get that, that's why you tape here. In case you roll over, you want that tape there. Wanted to get that little bit of black spot off that tape. I guess I should put just another little piece of tape right there, because I do see that got a little bit of a gap there. So we're going to go back with thin tape. I want to make sure that these are really as good as you can get them to the frets, because you don't want to mar up the fretboard. So I'm just going to go back and double check them. The fret file can get right to that edge of that fret. The last thing you want if you're doing this for a customer is try to explain how come there's scratches on their fretboard. Now I'm going to put a piece right along that edge just to clean up that first piece that I put on. Probably going to have to use the larger tape for that. It doesn't want to stick. Not quite long enough. Double check the other side. All right. I think we're good to go now. Let's take a look at it one last time before we start recrowning the frets. Now I'll do the first one so you can kind of see what's going on here. That was our first tool. I'll show you what that one looks like. I'm going to get down and actually look at it this way. And make sure that we have a nice even, we're not doing this number to the fret. We have to do is clean up the very ends, because these are ball end frets, and we have changed that profile just a little bit. I'm going to make sure you put the smooth side down. This particular one has a little bit of a rounded edge, so it doesn't damage the fretboard. It doesn't take much. Light, look at it. Light is definitely your friend. I have another light over here that I'll sometimes use. Let me get underneath the counter here, see if we can actually plug this secondary light in. I don't think I can. I think what all is plugged in down there. Oh, yep, we do have an extra plug. So I'm going to look at it with the light. We're going to go back into squirrel mode and start working on down the neck. Okay, with the ball end fret on this file, when you're coming through, you want to start to increase your angle this way, but also as you're moving the tool this way, you want to roll the tool with your fingers across. You don't do that on the normal fret, but since these are ball end frets, you have to relieve that edge and get that ball end back. That's what I'm doing right here. I'm coming over and rounding in. At the factory, this is done not in the guitar. They cut the tang off a little bit on the bottom, and then that is sanded round and then chamfered across the top, and then sanded again to get that ball end. A little more difficult once it's in the guitar to get that good and clean. And also be mindful of your tape in here in the corners. You start to see a little tear, or you're wearing through, or anything of that nature, just go ahead and put another piece of tape on. I believe we need to talk about something here as we're working. We're taking an extremely inexpensive guitar. This guitar is $219, and we're trying to get it to a playable state. That is, we'll say $500–600 range guitar. We can get it past that. You know, once we do everything and fix all the issues, I believe this will be a, you know, it'll keep up with any $1,200 guitar. You bought a guitar that's made quickly. You know, they didn't take the time to do everything. Now is the time, depending on how far you want to take the project. This project here is going all the way. We're going to resolve the issues with the bridge. We're going to resolve the issues with the nut, the tuners. Whatever arises, we're going to fix. We want to make sure our fretwork is top notch. This isn't the time for fast and easy. That's how the guitar was built. Now's the time for slow and steady. Make sure that your work is correct. You will not have to go back and redo it. Once the frets are right, these are stainless steel. Little adjustment in the neck, bring it right back in tune. So let's continue on. We're at the 12th fret right now. We're going to continue working this way, and I'm going to go back into squirrel mode. Actually, I think we should adjust our camera angle. and the very last fret. Okay, we have finished crowning. So what I like to do now is kind of hit it with some extremely fine sandpaper. And being as that this sandpaper has been used twice, I'm just going to peel it off my straight edge and try to use this. It's not going to survive another fret level. The glue that they use on this tape is phenomenal. Usually I have to take some acetone and clean that up. I'll stick that up there. It's good for doing fine work. Just going to fold it over. I'm just going to lightly hit our ends. This side. I'm going to go a little steeper on my angle. Now most of you are going to cringe at this point because you spent all that time leveling it. This is 1200. It's been used twice. It doesn't even feel like it has a grit to it at this point. So we're just going to lightly go over our frets like this. It's doing more cleaning than it is cutting. After you do this a few times, you get a feel for how much pressure to apply. Now I'm going to kind of go across this way. Basically now I'm putting my fingers here, keeping the sandpaper. I want to kind of take the edge of the fret. Doesn't take much. I'm going to flip over because I can already feel that it's turned to a piece of glass. Now we're going to go back the other direction. Fold the paper again. We're not really hitting the top of the fret, we're hitting more the side. Now we're going to go back, make sure we're still good everywhere. I'll do this in squirrel mode. We are golden. So now comes the point of just looking at the fret, make sure there's no really scarred spots before we get into polishing. All in all, they look pretty good. So let's get some polishing compound here. Now here is where I have to unplug our light because we don't need that anymore. Let's see what our RPM is set at. Seems pretty good. And that's it. You want to do one pass and go down the neck. The reason for that is the Dremel moves. I've got it slowed down, but it's spinning so quickly it's going to heat up your frets. So you want to go a little bit down and back up. You can do multiple passes. Don't sit there and work on this fret and work on, because that fret's going to get hot. So you want to be careful of that. When you're doing this for the first time, stop, check the temperature of the fret. Make sure it's not getting warm. If it is, move to the next fret. You can always come back and hit it some more. We're going to go into squirrel mode. Okay, we're going to repeat that process the opposite direction. Because the Dremel's on an angle, it's going to polish more to one side than it does the other. So we're going to take the guitar and we're going to flip it. And check our frets. Warm. Nowhere near hot. I had a laser thermometer, but it died. So we'll start at the top again. Do the exact same thing. Alright, that was one pass from the headstock to the bridge, and then one pass from the bridge to the headstock. Let's take a gander and take some of this polishing compound off and see how close we are. Not seeing my rag. And if you can't tell, my shop is a disaster. So let me find a rag. One microfiber. Let's see what we got here. Alright, it looks like our first pass on polishing turned out really good. I am still seeing some fine spots. Let's take a look at it with a light. Oh, we had to disconnect the light, didn't we, to make the Dremel work. Basically, my point of view, I'm taking the light and I'm following the shine, and that'll behind the bright spot. It's hard because I don't know the viewing angle that the camera's at, but right behind the bright spot, you can see if there's any marring or scratches. And there's a few on that one. They're really good. But we're going to give it one more pass. I am going to take a 5-minute break. And we'll be right back. Okay, ready to do our last pass. This isn't going to be a heavy pass like the first two. We're going to go across the fret like this. And we're going to give a second pass to these ball ends, since that was all done with the small file. Now we're not going to hit the ball end and then come across and then hit this ball end. We're going to come across, back and forth. Then we'll come back, hit this side of the ball end. Then we'll hit this side of the ball end like that. You don't want to hop over here because you've already put heat in this side. And that should be good. Let's wipe her down and see what we got. All right, let's actually take a close look at these frets. I am going to move the camera. Okay, now that we're finished with our second pass on polishing, the frets are mirror finish. So we're going to do a close-up so everyone in the audience can see it. You can look at the ball end frets that had to be redone because we leveled the fretboard. And then I'll set it back a little bit and try to get the light to reflect off the frets so you can see the mirror finish. And the other side is just as nice. Take your time. Don't rush it. The frets on your guitar is what makes it feel and play great. A good level crown and polishing will make pretty much any guitar play 500% better. I think we're going to end the video right here for right now, and then we'll do a second video on restringing the guitar and working on the other known issue, which is this nut, which from the first video that you watched, we know the intonation on the low E was right. When we tuned to E on the 12th fret, it was perfect, but when you hit the F note, it was way sharp. So we're going to have to either remove the locking nut hardware and sand it down, or remove material off the neck to get that piece to lower down. But until then, thanks for watching, and don't forget, hit that subscribe button and the bell once I figure out where the bell is.